Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Twitter, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network's YouTube channel. As always, I am Bryson Carver, and the night has come upon us. Game 1 of the 2023 NBA Finals tips off in about 2.5 hours from Denver, Colorado at the Ball Arena between the Eastern Conference champion Miami Heat and the Western Conference champion, the Denver Nuggets. The number 1 seed in the West versus the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. This is going to be a fun one, folks. I'm so excited for this series. I know, and I've talked about it throughout the last week and a half or so, ever since we really knew it was going to be Denver and Miami. And for those of you that say, well, it went to Game 7, I knew all along it was going to be the Miami Heat, especially when they went out 3-1. I did not waver. This could be a great series. People may talk about the ratings and all that. It may not be great. Listen, for a series like this, I could give 2 craps about ratings. This is going to be awesome. Okay, you got a massive favorite, a team that's rolled through the West versus a massive underdog who has rolled through the East. Cannot wait for this series. John Rivera of the Pham Perspective Podcast will be stopping by in about 25 minutes to discuss these NBA Finals, as well as I saw a story today I want to talk about with John, is that Joe Mazzulla will be retained by the Boston Celtics, which I think is a very interesting move. And look, if the Celtics are looking to retain him, I think there is one serious adjustment they need to make in terms of what to do around Coach Mazzulla, who the Celtics, again, as Brad Stevens announced today, they will be retaining. And obviously, I'll get his thoughts on the NBA Finals in terms of who he's got tonight, who he's got. If he hasn't made his prediction already on the series, I don't think he has, so maybe he doesn't want to do that in Carving Up Live yet. Maybe he'll say that for his podcast, which I completely understand. And at the end of today's show, obviously, I will predict Game 1 of the NBA Finals. You guys already know I made my prediction on Monday's show, or Tuesday's show, because I did a Tuesday show after Game 7, that I have the Heat in 6. I think this notion, and this, you know what, let me just go ahead and jump right into it. But first, this notion that, and we've been hearing it all throughout the week, ever since the Finals matchup became official on Monday night. The notion, the narrative, the Vegas odds, saying that Denver is just this massive favorite of the Miami Heat. That from a basketball standpoint, you can't see. I saw one basketball podcaster who I have great respect for, Jason Temp, who works at The Volume, does a phenomenal basketball podcast. Some of the best stuff out there. Highly recommend you guys. I don't usually plug other people's podcasts that I don't personally know. That's one of them I would. Great stuff. But I even heard him say, I don't see from a basketball standpoint, the more I look at it, I don't see a scenario in which the Heat are able to win 4 times in 7 tries. And to which I say, how you figure? This is a Miami Heat team that just faced the Milwaukee Bucks in round 1. A series in which I picked Milwaukee to win in 5. Yes, there was actually one other series in which I picked against Miami, but you know why that was? A, I thought Milwaukee was better, and 2, I did pick them to get to the finals to take on my Warriors. So there was 2 things going on there. Clearly, they were not better than Milwaukee. You say, well, Giannis missed 2 games in that series. Yeah, he came back and ran from the basketball in the 4th quarter in Game 4 and certainly in Game 5, and Jimmy Butler took that series over. You then face the New York Knicks, a team that's excellent defensively, well coached. Jalen Brunson had a fantastic series. You have to deal with again, you don't have home court throughout the entire playoffs at all because you're the 8th seed taking on a Knicks team that has obviously a great home court, Madison Square Garden. Take them out in 6. You face the Boston Celtics, who many view were either the best or second best team in the NBA. You had a 3-0 lead on them, and a very strong argument can be made, folks. They outplayed them in 5 of the 7 games. They just got really, really unlucky with the Derek White tip-in at the end of Game 6 to force a Game 7 in which Miami hosed Boston. This notion, if you want to say Denver's better, have at it. They were the number 1 overall seed. They won 53 games. They have a fantastic offense. Jokic finished top 2 for MVP again. He's averaging a triple-double throughout the playoffs. Jamal Murray averaging 30 in the playoffs. Great coach, Mike Malone, bench, all that. If you want to say they're better, have at it. I'm not going to fight you on that. But the fact, the notion, oh my gosh, there's just this massive gap. Again, as I read on Monday's show, and I got the year wrong. I got the teams right, but I got the year wrong. So I'll correct myself. The Miami Heat in the last 16 years, these Miami Heat are the second biggest underdog going into a finals, second only to the 2018 Warriors and the 2018 Cavs. Now, that 2018 Warriors team was not as good as the 2017 Warriors team, a team that literally went 16-1 and is the greatest team ever assembled in the history of the NBA, and it's not even an argument. But that 2018 team still had KD, who averaged 30, Steph Curry, who led the Warriors in scoring 3 of the 4 games, should have gotten Finals MVP, played outstanding in that series. Okay, you got a Klay Thompson, who's the second greatest shooter ever, Draymond Green, who was Defensive Player of the year prior, against a Cavs team that had prime LeBron James and nothing else. A much diminished version of Kevin Love, who's your second best player, an old, beat-up J.R. Smith, Jeff Green, Kyle Korver at the end, a young Jordan Clarkson, Tristan Thompson. I mean, folks, it was not a very good basketball team if you watch that playoffs. The gap between those two teams was massive. Why should I see this finals being anything similar to that? I just think the overwhelming storyline, and I'll get to a couple other storylines of this segment as well, but the overwhelming storyline I'm seeing in this series is, oh my gosh, if this thing even goes 6, you got to tip your cap to Miami Heat. I'm like, okay, not only do I have the Heat winning in 6, I don't get from a basketball perspective, from a logical perspective, how there's so big of a gap. That's not to say Denver isn't a great team. That's to say Miami is. That's the thing. You can say Denver is great, and they are clearly. They're in the finals, for crying out loud. But why can't Miami be? I think what it is, you know what it is? I think some of it's how Miami plays. You know, it's not, again, the sexiest brand of basketball and whatnot. But, I think it is more than that. There's still this overriding belief that I've said all season long, all throughout this NBA season, and some last season, but definitely this year, that how good you are in the regular season dictates how far you can go in the playoffs. And folks, in 2023, it doesn't. The regular season has never been more relevant. The Miami Heat were the lowest scoring team in the NBA. Think about that. Not the Pistons, not the Rockets or the Spurs who are going to get Wembanyama. No. Not Portland, who Dame missed a bunch of games for them. No, the Heat. These same Miami Heat, same guys. Jimmy and Hero and Oladipo before he got hurt, and Kyle Lowry and Caleb Martin, Strus and Vincent and Bam Adebayo. Lowest scoring team in the NBA. Does that mean anything come playoff time? No, it doesn't. Golden State's a terrible road team in the playoffs. Yeah, they stole 2 games on the road against one of the best home teams in the NBA. Oh, Memphis can't beat them at home. Yeah, Lakers came in and housed them in round 1. It doesn't matter. Lakers were a 7 seed, got to the Western Conference Finals. Warriors were a 6 seed, got to the semis. Heat were an 8 seed. They're in the NBA Finals. Folks, seeding, how good you are in the regular season in today's NBA means nothing towards playoff success. If you have a great coach, which not only does Miami have a great coach, I think they got the best coach in the NBA. If you got a star player who Jimmy Butler's emerging into a superstar, if he isn't already, who's had a history of great playoff performance, and you got a great culture, which I talked about on Tuesday, that doesn't matter what the circumstance is, you feel good about yourself. You go with a good game plan, you match up well with the other team, and that's why Miami's gotten to this point. That's not to say Denver isn't great, because they are. But let's not act like Miami's just this band of misfit toys who just so happened to stumble into the finals. No, they earned it just like Denver did. And I liked what the Nuggets said. I liked what Michael Malone said. I liked what Aaron Gordon, and I think I even heard Jokic during media availability say, like, man, we could give a crap about the fact they're the 8th seed. They're in the finals. Clearly they did something right. So I just don't like this cloud that's hanging over this series for that reason. I wouldn't say, no, cloud's too strong. This narrative that's hanging over the series for that reason. The second thing I want to get to, is Jimmy Butler. Then I'll get to Nikola Jokic because those are the two stars of the series. Butler's the face of the Heat, Jokic's the face of the Nuggets. I'll start with Butler first since I continue to talk about Miami. Then I'll get to Jokic. How will we view Jimmy Butler with a championship? Because if he were to lead the Heat to a title, first of all, it would rival Dirk's 2011 ring as one of the most impressive playoff runs in NBA history that ended with a championship. Again, so we're not talking about, LeBron taking some terrible Cleveland teams to the finals and losing to an overwhelmingly talented Warriors team or Spurs team. We're talking you led your team through the playoffs and you got the championship at the end. Jimmy's would rival Dirk's 2011 title should they come up with this championship. Should that be the case, not only would we look at Jimmy in that regard as you led the toughest championship arguably ever, but not just that, his resume, his basketball legacy would be unlike anything that we've really ever seen in the NBA, where it's you come into the league, Jimmy Butler, ladies and gentlemen, averaged 2 points a game first year in the NBA. He's a really good player in Chicago, with Derrick Rose. They had Taj Gibson and Joakim Noah. He was a good player in Chicago. But they were like, we don't really feel like he's good enough to be the max guy. We'll move him on because we're trying to rebuild. So he goes to Minnesota with other young players. It's like, I'll tell you what, he's too much of a locker room. And they move him after one season. They go to Philadelphia where it's championship-ready situation. Jimmy plays really well that year. We just don't really want to commit our franchise to him. Fourth stop. Now, you would think a basketball player with a resume like that, in terms of you're talented, but you bounce from team to team to team, sounds to me a lot like Kyrie Irving or Russell Westbrook. No, the problem was the organizations and the cultures, particularly Minnesota and Philly, they didn't know how to respond to a guy like him. A guy who was a culture setter, but they weren't building their franchises around him. Miami does, and you see what's happened. 3 Eastern Conference Finals appearances in 4 years, second finals in 4 years. And something else, too, is that when we talk about all-time great players, we're talking about the icons of the sport, LeBron and Jordan and Kobe and Kareem and Shaq, all these, we can recognize them by one name, those guys. They all were great in the playoffs. They all won multiple championships. Most of them won multiple MVPs. We understand that. But they were also great in the regular season. Again, I sort of mentioned the MVPs. They're Kareem won 6, Jordan won 5, LeBron's won 4. First of all, not only has Jimmy never been in contention for an MVP, when have we ever looked at Jimmy that's a great regular season performer? Looked at James Harden and said that. Looked at Russell Westbrook and said that. Plenty of dudes in the NBA. Up until this year, you could have put Nikola Jokic in that category, and this year he's completely dispelled that. He's thrown that, thrown that out the window. No, dude, the same production I bring to the regular season, I bring that and then some to the playoffs, which he deserves all the credit in the world for. Jimmy's a very good regular season performer and turns into an all-timer when the playoffs roll around. Not that I can't really think of the parallel. If y'all do, please tell me in the comments, because I can't think throughout NBA history where it's really good player in the regular season, amazing in the playoffs. I'm not talking about amazing by Manu Ginobili, good regular season player, big time, in all those finals runs for the Spurs. Robert Horry, Big Shot Bob, as they referred him as. What did he win? 8 rings, I think it was. I think he won 8 championships with all those different, Rockets teams and Lakers teams and Spurs teams. Yeah, but he was a good shot maker. He made big shots. But his performance didn't just explode necessarily in the playoffs. And he was never the regular season performer, Jimmy was. So how do we really reconcile that with where we put Jimmy? Because listen, the reality is we live in an era today. We live in a time with social media and everything where it's all about lists. It's all about ranking players. Where does that fit Jimmy? Because while he doesn't have the MVPs, his playoff resume, especially with a championship, would be incomparable in terms of guys of this era, at least, mostly outside of LeBron and Steph and maybe KD. It's a fair question. And Kawhi, you could probably throw in that discussion as well. It's an interesting, question, conversation to have. Where would Jimmy rank? Because he wasn't on the All-NBA 75 list last year. I don't know. It's an interesting conversation. And I'm curious to see what it would be with the title. Obviously, Jimmy would have to be Finals MVP. I think he has to be Finals MVP for them to win. And then as for Nikola Jokic, what's the story going to be around him? Well, first and foremost, I think most people will give him the title of best player in the world. Now, as somebody who said for about a year now that I think Steph holds that title, I mean, look, folks, Steph is still leading the playoffs in fourth quarter scoring, and he's been on vacation for 3 weeks? And it kind of goes to show you how great Steph is. He's still first in the playoff category and hasn't played in basically a month. So I think Steph still holds that title in my book. But if Jokic balls out in the finals, which I expect him to, like we all do, and they win the title, wins finals MVP, we would assume, it would be hard to make the case that he's not the best player in the world. Now, I think there's still some plenty of numbers that would point in Steph's direction in terms of recent playoff performances, but we can have that talk all day. The question is, where do we put him amongst great big men, great centers? Because, and we can put aside that I don't think he deserved either MVP the last 2 years. The fact of the matter is, if he wins this year, it doesn't matter. He validates those two MVPs. I mean, Embiid has yet to validate his MVP in the playoffs. So let's give Jokic the respect if he does. So that'd be 2 MVPs and a championship. By the way, to me, that adds to your resume a little bit when either you break a franchise's long championship drought or you help the franchise win their first ever title. And this is the Nuggets' first finals appearance, period. So that to me would kind of go, it's kind of like the Tim Duncan thing. Spurs never won a title. He led them to 5, obviously. The Warriors hadn't won in 4 years. Steph led them to 4 championships. The Bulls had never won. Jordan led them to 6 titles. Freaking Cleveland, had never won. LeBron led them to a title against a 73-win team down 3-1. Like, there's a special sort of aura that goes with that. Where would Jokic rank among centers? Well, here's who I would never, no, I shouldn't say never. Here's who I today, if he won a title, won finals MVP, would absolutely not place him over. I think there's some obvious ones. Kareem, Shaq, Hakeem, Wilt, Russell. You could argue David Robinson, although I would argue Joker's resume would look a little bit better than the Admiral. I know I'm missing somebody. Yeah, definitely put him above Dwight Howard. 100% would put him above Dwight Howard. 100%. He won't be in the top 5, but he will be in the position where he's threatening it. Listen, this is a league that has had some iconic great big men, great centers. Jokic would at least put himself in a conversation to be discussed among the greats with a title. It's an interesting discussion to have, and that's why I cannot wait for this finals to kick off, or to tip off tonight. It's going to be very fun. NFL topic real quick before we get to our next guest, John Rivera, Pham Perspective Podcast. Check his stuff out. Him and his guy, Henny Dre, doing a great job over there. I saw a story a couple days ago on Aaron Rodgers, and the Green Bay Packers and the New York Jets as well are sort of involved with this. And I sort of had an epiphany, as the title of this episode says. So I saw this. This is according to an article by The Athletic, who are as reliable a source as you can find in terms of just great pieces on there, great reporting that they do. And this is according to, I'm going to give credit to who wrote this. Matt Schneidman, who wrote this piece for The Athletic. Okay, so here's what it says. Quote, according to a source associated with the team, with the Packers, who has granted anonymity to candidly discuss the sensitive dynamics between the front office and the star quarterback, early in the 2021 offseason, Dunn, Aaron Rodgers' agent, called the Packers president, Mark Murphy, with a request. Fire Brian Gutekunst, the general manager, or trade Rodgers. Murphy did neither. Months later, news broke that Rodgers wanted out of Green Bay, but the Packers held firm. And then this is This article goes on to say the QB and GM had agreed to meet in person while Gutekunst was traveling in Southern California for the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl in late January per Schneidman, but the two never connected, with Rodgers alleging that he responded to morning texts from Gutekunst that night or the next morning the next day. This is from Rodgers. Quote, "Did Brian text me more than I texted him?" Rodgers said. "Yeah, but did I ghost him? No, I texted him back. There were back and forth, so we had, and so this is the story you want to go with? You're going to stand on this hill of austerity and say that arguably in the conversation of the best player in your franchise history, you're going to say I couldn't get a hold of him and that's why we had to move on? Like, come on, man, just tell the truth. You wanted to move on. You didn't like the fact that we didn't communicate all the time. Like, listen, I talk to the people that I like. Okay, so again, it's sort of a he said, she said right now. This is according to a source of the team saying, hey, Rodgers wanted out. According to the source of the team, Rodgers' agent went to the front office and said, hey, trade Aaron or fire the GM. And obviously neither happened, and Rodgers won the MVP that year, although the Packers flamed out in the playoffs. And Rodgers is saying, I talked, but this notion that I ghosted him is crazy. So I don't know who's telling the truth, to be completely honest with you. But I sort of had an epiphany the other day about Aaron Rodgers. And you can call me crazy because I have been as big of an Aaron, I think doubter is too strong. I think he's one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. That's inarguable. But I think, would he be top 8 on my list of guys, not greatest quarterbacks, but of guys I would want to build around? I've been hesitant on that. But I say a lot of times on my show, two things can be true. And I firmly believe that with every fiber of my being. I think there are certain situations like, well, yeah, this can be the case, and this also can be the case. In this instance, in the breakup, because that's what it was. It's a breakup between a star quarterback, a superstar quarterback, and a franchise, the Green Bay Packers. In situations like this is now the 4th straight off season in which we've had a star to superstar caliber player, quarterback, leave his franchise or get traded from his franchise elsewhere. It's 4th time. Brady in 2020, Stafford in 2021, Russ in 2022, Rodgers in 2023. And in every instance to this point, of the first 3, it is either clearly, we have gotten an answer definitively, who carried who. Does more credit go to the player or the organization? Tom Brady left New England. It's like, okay, yeah. Patriots went 7-9. Tampa won the Super Bowl. Year 1, Brady was the MVP at age 43. It was like, okay, yeah, Brady kind of carried New England for 20 years. The year after, the Stafford trade between the Rams and the Lions, which I think we kind of knew this going into this situation as well. But Stafford goes into a situation where he's able to, where Sean McVay gets the best out of him. He's got weapons galore. Detroit really struggles that year. Rams go on to win the Super Bowl. We see like, okay, yeah, Stafford deserves the bulk of the credit for any success he did have in Detroit. The next year, it was the other way around. And I was dead wrong on this one if you look at what I said last offseason about Russ. I thought it was Russ carrying the Seahawks. No. It was the other way around. It was the Seahawks. Geno Smith steps in, career backup, has the best year of his NFL career. Comeback player of the year. Seahawks make the playoffs. Russ and Denver go 5-12. It's like, okay, yeah, this is the great organization in Seattle who elevated a quarterback who we prematurely deemed a star. With Aaron Rodgers now, it is either going to be he carried them as far as he could, which is a Super Bowl and multiple playoff appearances, or he underachieved given the organizational structure around him. It's going to be one or the other. And given Green Bay's history, when they don't have supremely talented quarterbacks, they're not that good. 70s, they were irrelevant. 80s, they were awful. They've been fortunate to have 3 decades of Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. It's hard to ignore the fact that the Packers are, since Rodgers became the starter in 2008, they're 6-12-1 without him. So with this Jordan Love kid who there's this cautious optimism around in Green Bay, but at this point, kid's in year 4. If he's not ready to play now, I doubt he will be after sitting 3 years behind Aaron. You're seeing a new side of Aaron. You're seeing optimistic Aaron. There's reports coming out of the Jets OTAs like, oh man, he's optimistic. He's a great leader. He's holding dudes accountable. Like, I don't recognize this guy. Like, is he changing for the franchise? Is he changing for the organization? Or is he sort of allowed to be who he has always been? And Green Bay, maybe, I don't know if it's the weather, I don't know if it's a small town, have sort of held him back. I'm going to take a plunge. And my epiphany was, or is, maybe I should give Aaron a little bit more credit for the success that he had in Green Bay and not as much 50-50. We'll find out in short order. But I am starting to cautiously buy a little bit of stock into the New York Jets. And with that, let's bring on a big-time Jets fan and big supporter of the show. He hosts a fantastic sports podcast, the Pham Perspective Podcast with Henny Dre. Would you please welcome back to Carving It Up Live, Rivera on Carving It Up Live. What's up, John?
What's going on? What's going on?
I'm doing well, man. It's been too long. First of all, what's sort of your thoughts on my take about Aaron? I saw you had like a reaction down there. What do you think?
Yeah. No, I like to buy in a little bit to the Jets. You know what I mean? Jets talk for real, and just giving Aaron a little more credit. You know what I'm saying? Like Brett Favre and Aaron, quarterback definitely carries the team. You can see that in New England. You can see that in plenty of other teams when the quarterback go down. You know, the ship goes down with it. You know, Arizona Cardinals this year. You know, certain teams like that, you know, go down. When Drew Brees went down a couple times, you know what I mean? So definitely happy that you're giving Aaron Rodgers a little more credit and you're getting a little bit more respect for the Jets. That's all I want from people, just a little more respect. You know what I mean? That's all.
I understand again, but I'm just seeing a more positive Aaron Rodgers that I'm not used to seeing over his time in Green Bay. Again, maybe it's just the bitter weather in Green Bay that can just get to you after a while. And I understand. I mean, it's not like it's much warmer in New York, but you know, it's warmer in New York than it is in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I think it's more than safe to say that.
No, it's just sure. Like, you know, like when you in as far as relationship wise, we're gonna keep it that way. When you get in a new relationship, everything is brand new. You're going out to different places, seeing different things. You're happy, you know, you're smiling, everything's going. Now, when the season comes and maybe year two and year one didn't go too well, then we'll see, you know, the true feelings. But definitely happy to see him, you know, like you said, out there with the guys. He's literally one of the guys right now. You know, he's out there enjoying life, I think. You know what I mean? Probably a midlife crisis sort of thing, you know what I mean, for his age. And I'm happy, you know what I mean? Like I said, to get a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's my second favorite quarterback, you know, behind Dan Marino of all time. So to have him on my team, I would say still, you know, maybe at the end of his prime, but still in his prime to consider that for 2 or 3 years or whatever we get him, man. I'm ecstatic, man, but I'm still, like I said, keep my expectations, you know, like in the middle. 11 wins,
sure.
You know, hopefully make the playoffs, you know what I mean? But, you know, roster-wise, we definitely can compete with anybody, but you have to, you know, you got to play every given Sunday, as they say, you know what I'm saying? So.
And the defense is as good as it comes in the NFL. So I'm really, that's what I'm curious to see in terms of how he fits with some of the new receivers they had there. Obviously added Randall Cobb. I'm surprised that you guys actually haven't gone after DeAndre Hopkins. Because I think if you had D-Hop, man, that's a game changer. Now you do have some good young receivers, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, as a fan, you know, you was a Cowboys fan, you know, every big receiver that came out, you like, oh, let's get him. Even Cowboys are in the rumors for him. They were in Odell, they are in D-Hop. But yeah, I would like him on the team. But as far as receivers, like I said, we had the offensive rookie of the year last year, Garrett Wilson. We added, you know, Rodgers guy, Lazard over there, Corey Davis. So that'll help Corey Davis because he don't have to be, you know, dependent on as much. You know what I mean? Because he was considered 1/2. So now he can go to that third receiver. And even Hartman, like I said, we got Hartman from Kansas City. We got Cobb over there to catch them, you know, 3rd and 5s, you know, them short 3rd and 5 plays. That's all we need. One of those a game from Randall Cobb, that's all we asking. One target, one catch, man, a game from Randall Cobb, and that's it, man. So I'm just happy our guy, everything is positive on Breece Hall from his injury, man. Everything's looking good.
That's huge.
Yeah, everything's looking good. Even Salah had in his press conference, he was like, he should be full go, but to be cautious, we're not going to give him full go in practice and everything for now. So, and, you know, like you said, there's levels to everything. Once you go from high school to college, you know, you get that weight regimen, the eating. Now you get the pros, and he's looking even better as well. So we'll definitely see, man. Sure.
And listen,
I'm happy, man. I'm happy.
Oh, I listen, I don't blame you. There's as much optimism around the Jets there's been in well over a decade. So, But I did want to ask you, though, about
Absolutely.
the NBA Finals, because obviously this is, again, I remember talking about my show when we kind of figured it was going to be Denver and Miami, is that it reminds me a little bit of 2021, where it's, two franchises we didn't really think would get there. We don't think the matchups can be all that interesting. It ends up being a very entertaining series. Starting with Miami, because I talked about to start the show that the notion that there's this huge gap. I saw like they're massive underdogs in Vegas to the Nuggets. And my thing is, you can say Denver's a great team, but why can't we give that same credit to Miami? Because they kind of rolled through the East just like Denver ran through the West. What's sort of your thoughts on the Heat?
Yeah, my Heat, like I said, like always, right, man. They're definitely dogs out there for sure. And if you do, roster by roster, obviously Denver got the better roster.
Sure.
Like I said, they were the number 1 seed. They got the 2-time MVP. Jokic over there. So obviously, yeah, they're gonna be, big underdogs. But like you said, the Heat was underdogs in Milwaukee. They're underdogs. They were underdogs all playoff for the Knicks.
Yep.
And they're underdogs for Boston. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I just think the respect wise, I think they respect them. But it's like one of them things, like say for Denver, like everybody respects Denver, but since they didn't win nothing yet, so everybody's still skeptical. Like, I don't know about Denver. You know what I mean? And I think Miami has that same optimism as far as them. Like, all right, Cinderella story is cool. Y'all guys are dogs, we understand, but it ends here, sort of thing. You know what I mean? And yeah, so that's my perspective on Miami. You know what I mean? I think they're definitely gonna make it interesting, but it also has to bring it to their game, man. And their game is, under the hundreds. I don't think they could try to outscore Denver, I would say.
You don't think so?
Yeah,
they've won some high-scoring games.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it as far as that aspect. And that was more or less, like you said, you're getting lightning in the bottom, man. These cats are playing lights out, shooting threes from everywhere, you know what I mean? And also, you go from Denver and Jokic and the Lakers series is shooting half-court threes like this, you know what I mean, with the shot clock running out. So they had a little luck behind them too, but yeah, I think Miami gets a little, like I said, they played a 7-game series, you know what I mean? There's 2 days off only to come back Thursday, you know what I mean, and play. It's going to be hard. But Miami is, I think their record or something like that is like 7-1 or something like that in game ones or something like that.
Well, I know they're undefeated in these playoffs in game ones, but I didn't know if it was.
Yeah, I read something like that, like in like the last 8 or something, like 7-1 in game one. So
dang,
you don't know what to expect from them, man. We'll definitely see. I'm excited. Like I told you beforehand, I don't think it would have been the best. I don't think was gonna be the best, matchup wise, and people want to watch. But hey, when it's that time of the year when there ain't no NFL, MLB is kind of slow, you're gonna watch it. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Like you said, you want to see what Denver does, and see if Miami can still, stay in this hot streak.
As for Denver, too, they've obviously got a lot of storylines around them about Jokic. Where does he rank with a win? I said I think he's certainly with the championship. He's not in that discussion of top 5 centers of all time, but I think you at least start to consider, hey, that's a championship, 2 MVPs, leading a franchise to their first ever title, which I think carries a different type of weight to it. Where do you put him in regards to top 10 centers of all time? What's sort of your thoughts on that? And as for Denver, do you think rest or rust? Because that's been the discussion. Like, man, they've had 10 days off. Do you think that comes into play? What's sort of your thoughts on Denver and on Jokic in particular?
Like I said, Jokic, you see Melo in the back right there. You know what I mean? 15 too. I think both jerseys should be retired.
I agree.
I agree. Yeah, I think both jerseys should be retired. But yeah, I think when it all settles, I think Joker will probably end up a top, if not probably already up there as far as top 10 center like of all time. You know what I mean? And if he keeps up his things, statistics and all that, and he wins a championship, he could be in that top 5 within 2 or 3 years for sure. You know what I mean? But I think he's going to have a great series. Like, Miami's well undersized. We thought Lakers was undersized. You know what I mean? AD was there basically their big man. The Vanderbilt tried to be in there. They even had Tristan Thompson in there. So you see how much of force Joker was out there. And they got Bam. I'll call Bam Junior AD because they're both the same, bro. They're the same player. Like, they're physically talented. They should be putting up 20 and 15, but disappear. You know what I mean? Definitely disappear and go from there. Okay. And disappear and all that. You know what I mean? So, yeah, Joker's definitely going to have a phenomenal series, man. I can see, 20. Like I said, the same as the Lakers. I see 27 12 and 9 or something like that, less on the assist part. But I think one or two of these games will be not a close game. You know what I mean? I don't think like the Lakers game where it was close. You know, basically like all the games were like 5 to 6 points in the Lakers series. This one, it's definitely going to be, like I said, one or two games where we're like, it's over by 5 minutes left in the fourth. I think possibly, personally. So, you know what I mean?
Have you made a prediction for the series or like on your show or on social media?
Yeah, I mean the show hasn't come out yet, but I got Denver in 6. I got Denver in 6.
Okay.
And that's not even my gut. I think Denver in 5. But
really? Okay.
But I
you just out of respect for Miami.
Yeah, out of respect, you know what I mean, for Miami. And I had Boston in 5, so you see how that goes, for sure. But yeah, I think like I said, I think, when you just look on paper, man, and just look at the matchups, man, I don't think Miami can match up. But like I said, we said that with Miami and Boston. Like I said, I thought Boston could win it all, you know what I mean, matchup wise, because
sure.
you got Michael Porter out there. I think like I said, I think it's literally a repeat of their series with the Lakers. I think each role player will have their game. Michael Porter will have one game where he had 16. Aaron Gordon will have one game where he got like 15 rebounds. You know what I mean? Because they're trying to box out Joker. So who else is bigger than than Aaron Gordon over there? Bruce Brown come off the bench and does what he does.
He's played well.
Yeah, he's played well. That's what I mean. Jamal Murray just low key. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it gets overshadowed by the Joker, but you got to get his respect. Like he averaged like 30.
Heck yeah.
The Lakers. So yeah, man. So I think matchup wise, that's what I mean. You got to see because Jimmy gets Murray, or you let the other guys get Murray early and then get Jimmy late, like you always have.
And something else. Are you talking about teaming Murray or Jokic?
No, I'm just talking about like the Murray matchup. The Jokic don't got nobody for Murray. The Joker.
Right.
As far as Murray, you think Jimmy's
I think Jimmy has to take him because who else are you going to put him in? Lowry, Martin, Vincent? Like you're probably just going to have to roll with Jimmy, and that's something else too that I was thinking about, and I think it's absolutely the biggest concern if you're pulling for Miami or picking Miami like I am is that Bam struggled against Al Horford, who's obviously the gap between Horford and Jokic is a different story. But you still have to play Jokic one-on-one because if you double team, now he's just going to kick it out to some wide open shooters, and Denver's got plenty of those. You mentioned Michael Porter Jr. KCP's been playing very well for them in the playoffs. Bruce Brown's improved his three-point shot. So that's the concern I have for Miami is you can't stop Jokic from scoring, but
he's going to get his for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to get his, but I mean, I remember he had a 50-point game second round against Phoenix, but they didn't really let him get going in terms of getting other guys involved. So I think that's going to be the key to beating Denver when it's all said and done, if Miami goes on to win the series.
Yeah. Like I said, they like you said, I think like you said, the main focus is lock Murray down, and make Jokic, like you said, if Jokic gives you 50, then I think you're more in the game than him, getting a triple-double. You know what I mean? Because like you said, he's facilitating to Porter and to, KCP and all these guys, and Murray, when he gets that assist up. When he gets over like 10 assists, like the game's over. Like their winning percentages are super high on that aspect. So I think the focus, like I said, get Murray. I think, get these guys in there. Maybe start Jimmy on Murray, and then like the second quarter, like the other guys get in there. And then the middle of the third, put Jimmy back on Murray because that's when Murray starts to heat up or whatever like that. And then go from there, like I said, and the twin Martin, see if he still be. I'm talking about him. Okay, give me 1 second.
Well, he's been big time for sure.
Yeah, Martin. Let's see what he does, man, because he was averaging 16
on incredible shooting percentage as well.
Yeah, man, like he was playing lights out, man. Shout out to him because I've seen him and his brother, not really do too much in Charlotte. You know what I mean? Play on the same team, just to show up and the lights, man. Like I said, in the playoffs and the big lights today, man. That's definitely heart for sure. That's that Heat culture, as they say, man. You go to the Heat, you get a little more heart over there. You know what I mean? LeBron felt it. He had to go over there to get that heart stronger over there in Miami, and Shaq went over there and rejuvenated his career. So definitely.
Yeah, and then that's the last thing sort of for the series, and I did want to move on to a topic with the Celtics, is that, the coaching matchup is fascinating because obviously with, there's obviously a bigger gap between Spoelstra and Mazzulla than there is between Spoelstra and Malone. I've said for years, I think Malone has been one of the more over-criticized coaches. Like, we forget the fact that, he led 2 teams come back from 3-1 down back in the bubble. Maybe it's because we discount the bubble as if it's not real basketball. I don't know. But, listen, the 2-3-1 comebacks, he had to make adjustments in order for them to win those series. And so whether or not he's able to do that against a guy like Spo, who's kind of become famous for that, what are you looking at as far as the coaching matchup? Because, Spo's sort of like the established guy, and Malone's kind of trying to prove himself as being one of the better coaches in the league.
Right. Like you said, I think Malone's definitely, like you said, underrated. It's just a Denver thing. Like you said, Denver's almost, they're higher, Utah. Like, I mean? They're good.
Yeah.
They're good for years, but they just can't get over the hump. And, I think it's that year. And so Malone definitely did a fantastic job, man, coaching and stuff like that. And I don't think it's too far, as far as coaching advantage,
No, I don't think
definitely
so.
Malone, especially Malone, how he been this playoffs. He's been like, I've heard you say it on your show, like he's been saying some stuff like, to get the other team, bulletin board material and stuff like that. So I like his, like not being too serious with the moment. You know what I'm saying? For sure. So I definitely like how Malone's treating it. And, if he continue that, man, and continue coaching, man, like I said, let the boys play, I think he'll be all right, man. Like I said, I don't think it's a big, coaching advantage in that.
Yeah, I think so too. And that's, again, the adjustments after tonight's game going into Sunday's game too is what's going to be really key. Finally, I want to ask you about Boston, because I saw that Brad Stevens announced today that they're going to keep Joe Mazzulla around. And I thought about this, because I talked about on Tuesday, what's the case for keeping Joe Mazzulla around? Listen, he's young, inexperienced. I hope he gets an opportunity down the road if it doesn't work out in Boston, because like I said, he deserves a second chance, because he was thrown into a job just out of nowhere pretty much. So my thing is for Boston is do what a lot of teams have done with young coaches and surround him with veteran assistants. Like if you got to go get like a Sam Cassell, for example, or if you want to see if you can maybe pry Phil Handy from the Lakers or something, I think those type of coaches would really help someone like him sort of mature into that role, that long-term role for the Celtics. But what was sort of your take on them keeping Mazzulla around?
Yeah, I agree with you on that aspect. As far as assistants, yeah, he's going to add 2 or 3 assistants. Like you said, all the young cats, when you see they bench, you be like, they're all former coaches. Like, you know what I mean? Like when Mike Brown was with the Lakers and Mike Woodson will always have a job. Like he's always on somebody's bench, you know what I mean? Either a veteran coach or a young coach, he's on there. You know what I mean? So I could definitely see them, one of the coaches that got fired recently, getting on that coaching staff. I would have said Doc Rivers, but, he's coached in Boston and stuff like that. But he'd have been a good assistant under him, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I definitely I agree on the move because, like you said, it was his first year under turmoil. I mean, he was an assistant last year, so you got to give him at least another year to see, you know what I mean, see what he can do, you know what I mean, as far as adjustments and, the players get more confidence with him because, obviously they got to the Eastern Conference Finals, you know what I mean? They came back from 0-3 at least to get 3 games. And so, he showed some wit. Definitely showed some wit. So I'm glad they kept him for another year. Because, like you said, the NBA and every sport, they're quick to cut people for real.
Yeah,
2-3 weeks.
It's a rough job.
Yeah. Like a week or 2 in the season, they let them go. Like the Cleveland coach. Remember the Cleveland coach they got from overseas?
Oh, Blatt. Yeah, David Blatt. Yeah.
They got rid of him 3 weeks in the season.
Yeah.
They got Lou in there. You know what I mean? So yeah, he's definitely on that aspect. But as far as Boston, man, what you personally think? I don't know if you talked about it or whatever. What you think as far as Boston in general? We know the coach is intact now. As far as their roster, what you think as far as roster is going to happen this year, personally?
Listen, I understand how the contract extension for Brown, the Supermax deal, makes people I don't know, is he worth that? I get that. But listen, he is a dude who's averaged 25, 26 points a game. Listen, you can't win the championship every year. People kind of forget that. When they've gotten to the conference finals, 5 out of the last 7 years? I mean, really, they're doing something right. And so if you retain Brown, do you use some of your assets to, I know this name is thrown around a lot, but do you go out and maybe get a Damian Lillard? Do you go out and get maybe a Karl Anthony Towns from Minnesota? Because he's likely to be dealt this offseason. My thing is retain the core and see if you can make the surrounding players better. That's my mindset if I'm Boston, because I don't think they're too far off of a championship. Again, they were in a game 7 to get to the finals after they just made it last year. So I don't think they're just a long ways away. Like Philadelphia, for example, just can't get over the hump. I don't think they're in the similar situation. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, when you talk about that Supermax, you'd be like, wow. Like I don't think
It's a lot.
there was I was watching Mad Dog and Stephen A. going at it. And he was talking about, he can name basically like 20 players that's better than Brown, and I agree. Like there's 20 players over it, but when it's the time to pay somebody, and that's why it's Supermax for a certain team, for you can be able to keep your star players. You know what I mean? Offer them more money and stuff like that. So that's what it's there for, man. You got to pay them, but I'll definitely explore. You definitely got to explore the market for them. Like see what you can get in return for them, for sure. Like if you can get Dame, like I've said it before, if you can get Dame and make it even swap or add somebody, it definitely be even swap because of money, because of money and stuff like that. So I definitely explore that. I could see a Towns trade though, like if Towns and Minnesota have to give up somebody else, I would think, as far as getting back.
Yeah, they might.
Money wise, that'll be a straight up trade as well. You know what I mean? Towns definitely, be an upgrade from Horford, but him and Horford almost got the same type of game. You know what I mean?
They do, yeah.
But I definitely think Towns is definitely, it's time. Towns, you got to learn from like KD and them. Like, it's time to get out. Don't wait too long, man. Like, you got time to get out. You're still a young superstar, and see if you can blossom somewhere else. But, yeah, for that team, they definitely got to add. Let me see. They definitely got to add a more flexible big man, I would say, down low. You got big Robert Williams down there. He's good, but he's big. But you need somebody that can create like a Bam, like Michael Porter Jr. Like he don't got to be obviously a power forward or nothing like that. But give him a 6'9", 6'10" guy that can create his own shot. You know what I mean? That can get in there power forward wise, or small forward that sometimes plays center. They need somebody like that, like almost like a Swiss Army knife. He don't got to be, an all-star caliber player, but he definitely got to be, like I said, like a Michael Porter Jr. type of player, like, and that and play that type of role. Because Brogdon was definitely that guy. Like I was, like,
he
when
was
they got
huge.
him, when they got him, I was like, man, he's a starter, and he's gonna come off the bench, 6 man. That's why I was, choosing Boston. And I was telling people like, listen, Boston gonna be a problem, but they got Brogdon over there and stuff like that. And as we see, he was, you know what I mean, but. Definitely, like I said, they got to do a stretch 4 in Boston, you know what I mean? That can get you 15, 20 points a night and go.
They had that guy in the building in Danilo Gallinari, but he got hurt before the season, so that really hurt them as well. So I think they definitely need to keep him around.
Yeah. But like I said, even somebody that rebounds a little more. I like Gallinari, he's shooting wise, but you got Tatum and Brown that shoots 6 threes a game anyway. So you need somebody that can go in and out, you know what I mean? You can give him, he can post up, and, he can get you a 3 if he needs to, but that's what I think they need. They need somebody like that can, get a little more bulk of the scoring. Like I said, you can't depend on Big Al out there. He gives you every 4 games, he'll get you 9 points, 2, 3 threes. You know what I mean? Robert Williams, he's good on the alley hoops and the putbacks. But like I said, you need somebody that can create when, say, Tatum get hurt. You don't got to have Brown shoot up 93s. You know what I mean? That's not his game. You know what I mean? You need somebody else to defer to that can create his own shot. Like I said, he don't got to be a superstar. He could be a borderline all-star player and do his thing. Like I said, maybe Gallinari was that guy. You know what I mean? Like I said, you had him with Brogdon. Maybe he was that guy, but definitely somebody like that. In Boston, they're all right. Like you said, nobody can't win it every year. Like they got to the Eastern Conference Championship. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. Like they had the second best record overall, just about. You know what I mean? So they're gonna be all right. They're gonna be all right.
I'm with you. I don't think there's any time to panic whatsoever. 2 rapid-fire questions. We'll let you get out of here. First of all, who you got in Game 1 tonight?
I'm going. Like I said, I'm gonna go against the grain. I'm still gonna rock with Denver, man. I think Denver gets them. I think Denver gets them, and then in the close game, though, I think this will be one of the closer games. You know what I mean? Overall, like I said, I think Denver one game. Well, I don't know when it's gonna be, but I think Denver one game is definitely gonna take the roof off their, off the top. But yeah, I got Denver by 5 tonight. It'll be high scoring. Miami, compete a little bit. Like I said, Miami can score with them, but that ain't Miami game. Miami want to keep it around that low hundreds, that 105, 106 area. And I could definitely see 117 to like 110 or something like that. I got Denver tonight.
Okay, I like that. And then last question, is there anybody you can give us from the Bulls for Jordan Poole? Anybody? Because I'm just shopping him around all my guests coming on. Just like anybody can have.
Yeah, I'm trying to see because you're making a lot of money. I try to put everything in.
Yeah.
You're not taking Caruso. I love Caruso, and he's not making a bunch of money like Poole is.
I know.
But
can we have DeRozan?
Nah.
Okay.
DeRozan gonna be out after this. He's playing one more year, and he's probably gonna get traded. Same for Zach. Like our team is going through something, man. I don't know what it is. That ball injury just devastated us, man.
Yeah, it was
devastated us, for sure. But yeah, I don't got nobody for Poole. Like I said, that contract is too big for me.
Well, you can take him for free. I mean, I listen. We don't even need to get anything. We can just ship him off, and you give us like a second round pick or something.
I'll do it for a second round for sure. I'll do it.
Yes, sir. Yes. John Rivera, the Pham Perspective Podcast, anywhere you get your podcast and on YouTube. John, appreciate you coming by the show. Definitely going to have you on again sometime soon in the future. Have a good one, man.
I appreciate it, man. You too. Thank you.
Yes, sir. That was John Rivera of the Pham Perspective Podcast. Great stuff, as always, from him. I do have a couple comments here from my man, Philip Chenault. Philip says, the Russell Wilson hate is just insane. Dang, Bryson, you saying he's a bum now. He had an awful coach in Nathaniel Hackett. He did have a bad year, but dang. And he says, I think you will see the difference in him now getting a top 10 head coach in Sean Payton and not the worst coach in the whole league. I understand that, Philip. And again, there's no question. Like, listen, I'm not sitting here and acting like that Hackett was just, boy wonder and Russell just couldn't make it work. No, Hackett deserves a ton of the blame as well. That's why he got fired before the season even ended. I mean, he was in over his head from the first game. I understand that. But simple concepts. Russ was missing reads, like check downs out in the flat to running backs or to tight ends. Like, he got at, I don't know if it was coaching. I don't know if it was Russ. He got out of what made him great. I mean, he was missing some just simple reads that he didn't miss in Seattle. Do I think he'll be better this year with Sean Payton? Yeah, because Sean Payton makes everybody better. I mean, people got to remember, Drew Brees is a Hall of Fame quarterback. Drew Brees, to me, is a top 10 quarterback of all time. Dude's career was on the ropes before Sean Payton got there, before him and Sean Payton kind of met in the middle in New Orleans. But my thing is, I talked about cultures on Tuesday when talking about the Miami Heat. Like, you could just slide anybody in and out. As long as you have a great player, which they've gotten Jimmy, you slide in the pieces that work, you'll be fine. You'll still have the same amount of success if you got a great culture. You could say the same about Seattle. Again, same weapons that Russ had that I didn't think were good enough. Geno made them look like superstars. DK and Tyler Lockett. Now they got Jackson Smith and Jigba from from Ohio State, who's I think is going to be really good in the league. So a defense we thought was terrible ended up being pretty solid. So again, I don't think Russ is bad. I think Russ had a horrendous year. Do I ever think he's going to get back to back being that dude who's like MVP discussion year in and year out? I don't. But I did talk about the Broncos last week, and I said I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're win 10 games, they're going to make the playoffs. Patrick Brown, Broncos country. Let's ride. I can't believe I don't have that soundbite here because I've got a bunch of like soundbites here on from where I stream the show from, and I don't have Let's Ride on there. I'm going to need to get it before next season. Maybe anytime the Broncos win, I'll play it. Just kind of like with the Lions win and I play the Dan Campbell soundbite. Maybe I'll do that. But John makes some good points though, like talking about how I really like the comparison. Bam Adebayo is a lesser version of Anthony Davis. I think that's a great comparison. Like, again, he doesn't have the same like build that AD does, not as tall, not as thickly built like AD is, but similar in that, man, his offensive peaks are not as high as AD's. When AD is going offensively, dude's a threat to go for 30 to 40 points a night. The question is because he is, as I dubbed him in the first round, coin flip Davis, and he tends to be coin flip Davis more times than not. If I have hang on, do I have the coin flip Davis? I don't see it. It's not on cue. No. Oh, well. Oh, there it is. Coin flip Davis. Yeah. Yeah. When he's on, he's great. When he's not, he's awful. But Bam is, I think, more consistent than AD, but you kind of get the same production from him on a bad night. Let's put it that way. Where, man, he's struggling with his defensive assignment. He's struggling. Again, the last play of the game, I sort of overlooked the fact when I was doing my first segment talking about Miami outplayed Boston 5 out of 7 times. They just got unlucky. No, some of it was luck. Some of it is right place, right time that White was there. And some of it is Bam didn't crash the glass. Now, some of it also is Max Strus didn't have eyes on the inbounder. We could talk about it all day and all night, but ultimately for Miami, it doesn't matter because they still won the series. And for Derek White, it's great because it's made him a hero in Boston for 48 hours and maybe even beyond. Derek White's a really good player, but yeah, I like the comparison, and I think too, like I talked about John, and this is again, I'm about to predict game 1. It is hard. You can't double team Jokic. Because that's when he's at his most dangerous. Because if he gets going offensively, if let's say tonight he scores 15 points in the first quarter, just gets on a roll, maybe he hits a 3, those little hook shots of paint, he has phenomenal footwork down low, and then the double comes. Well, now you got Jamal Murray out there, and you got Michael Porter Jr. out there. Aaron Gordon, not a great 3-point shooter, but can knock it down from time to time. You got KCP out there. You got Bruce Brown out there. Jeff Green is capable of knocking down a 3-point shot. Did I mention? I think I mentioned KCP. Yeah, they've got a ton of shooters in Denver. Again, they did what any good organization would do, and that's build the franchise around the strengths of your best player. And that's why big reason Denver's gotten to this point. But I am really, really curious because not to get too X's and O's, but Miami played almost entirely zone defense in Game 7 against Boston. I really don't think you could do that against Denver. If you play zone, you're going to get cooked. Okay, Jokic is going to go to work as a facilitator, as a scorer. You're going to struggle on the glass, not just with Jokic, but with guys like Gordon, as John mentioned, with guys like MPJ. So I have a hard time believing we're going to see the zone defense tonight, but we'll see. The adjustments made by coaches, and that's why I'm happy that it's a series with 2 really good coaches. Spo, I think, is the best coach of the league. Michael Malone is a top. Am I going out on a limb and saying top 7, 8 coach? I mean, I've always been a Michael Malone fan. Both guys are capable of making the adjustments. So it's going to be a chess match, and I'm very, very excited. I'm always curious, especially in football. I'm excited to see that standpoint of the game. Like all those years where Belichick and Reed would face off in the playoffs. Like, I love those. I absolutely love those. All right. Game 1 obviously tips off tonight in about an hour and a half on ABC. Obviously, Denver at home, game 1. They've got 10 days of rest taking on the Miami Heat coming off of game 7. Let's get the background music going. Let's predict game 1 right now, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So, game 1. Tonight, 8:30 Eastern, ABC. Nuggets are huge favorites in this game. -9. So, Vegas is, again, right off the bat, all over Denver to win the series. In part, what this is telling me is that, A, they're vastly underestimating Miami's talent, and B, maybe just as important, if not more so, they're looking at the 4-letter R word, where you just swap in one vowel or another. Rust or rest. What's going to play factor for the Denver Nuggets? To me, I think it's both. I think early in the outset of the game, you got to realize, Miami just played a series in which it's every other day they're playing Boston. They play, day rest, play, day rest, play. No. Now, they beat Boston, they get 2 days off. Not just to travel to Denver, not just get the rest, but to get acclimated to the altitude. Again, I saw a stat today that Denver has, and this surprised me a little bit, but then again, maybe I shouldn't be all that surprised just because of the advantage they have with the altitude there being a mile high, is that they have the best home record in NBA history. Like, think about that. Not the Lakers, not the Spurs or the Celtics. Them, the Denver Nuggets. And a lot of that has to do with the altitude, which I read an article about it yesterday. Like, different guys, past and present, talking about it. It is no joke. Like LeBron was talking about, like, you get tired quicker in Denver. It is absolutely an advantage for the home team. Miami's acclimated enough, I think, by this point. Again, they probably got to Denver. Actually, they did get to Denver on Tuesday, so they've been here 48-plus hours. They practiced there, got some shots up. Now, a game is obviously very, very different than that. I understand that. But Miami coming off of the momentum of Game 7, they just finished playing in probably the most hostile environment in terms of an individual game all playoffs long, which is Game 7 in Boston. I read reports talking about how they felt like it was like a college basketball atmosphere. Like, it was crazy in there. And they weathered the storm. It didn't get to their heads, and they waxed Boston. Now, Denver's better than Boston. I think that goes without saying. Denver is absolutely a better basketball team than Boston. But it's going to be loud. First finals in Denver Nuggets history. The place is going to be ready to go. Here's what I think happens. Miami comes in. They got 2 days off. That's perfect. To me, coming off of a conference finals, around two is the minimum days rest you can get 2 to 5-ish days is like perfect rest. Denver hasn't played since last Monday in LA. Now, they also haven't played a home game in 2 weeks. So, going back to game 2 of the Western Conference Finals against the Lakers. So, does the momentum, does the energy of the home crowd kind of feed off and give them the energy to, that they need? Again, I don't know the Denver Nuggets well enough, or really even that sort of culture of the team, whatever, to know what have they done to keep themselves in shape, ready to go, keep their bodies fresh. But obviously, you're not gonna practice too hard. You won't be tired before the finals, but you want to keep yourself warm. And again, that healthy medium between rest and rust. That's what you want if you're Denver. I think that's going to hurt them. I think rust is going to get them at the outset of this game. I see Miami in a situation where middle of the second quarter, they're up about 15 points. Like Jimmy's on a roll. The other guys, the others, as Shaquille O'Neal calls them, they played big enough in numerous road playoff games in Milwaukee, in New York, and in Boston. Caleb Martin very well could have been Eastern Conference Finals MVP. As John mentioned, he averaged about 16 a game on like 60% shooting. Gabe Vincent has been good in the playoffs. Kyle Lowry's made big shots for them. I don't think Kevin Love will get a ton of minutes, but he may, just as another guy to help stop Jokic, maybe. Although you can't stop Jokic, he's a great player. I think the role players for Miami step up tonight. I think Jimmy has like a 20-point half. And I think second half rolls around and you see a Denver run. You see Jamal Murray get on a heater, get going. And I think John's spot on right in the money. I think this arguably might be the most entertaining game of the series. Like right down the wire, close, last 2 minutes. And if it gets to that point, it plays right into Miami's hands. Miami loves these situations. They execute almost flawlessly in these situations. It's part of the reason that the end of game 6 against the Celtics was so shocking. Not just the fact that, oh my God, Boston lives to tell about another day by the literal skin of their teeth. It's the fact that Miami allowed this. Like, it'd be one thing if Philadelphia's just casting strays throughout the show. It'd be one thing if Philadelphia allowed it. It's like, it's kind of Philly. That's what they do. No. Miami does not allow that kind of stuff to happen, especially in their home gym. Last stat, something's going to have to give. The Nuggets are undefeated at home in the playoffs, only team in the playoffs who could say that. And Miami, as John pointed out, 7-1 in their last 8 game ones. 3-0 in their first 3 playoff series in game ones, obviously being the 8th seed, all of them on the road, all of them in hostile environments. I think the Heat win this game. I think they win it close, 110-106 over the Denver Nuggets. So again, as the old saying goes on Carving It Up Live, especially during the football season,
we're a betting man.
We're a betting man. Take Miami +9. Not just +9, but to win this game outright, 110-106 over the Denver Nuggets to do what they've done the entire playoffs, and that is start the series with the lead. Again, they have yet to trail a playoff series to this point. So I think they jump out 1-0, steal home court advantage right off the bat, and they win game 1, again, 110-106. There we go. That's what I got. Okay, Patrick Brown. Patrick says, not to mention Stan Kroenke is the owner of the Nuggets as well, along with the Rams and the Colorado Avalanche. His wife's father is Bud Walton, who is the co-founder of Walmart. Now listen, Stan Kroenke is, I think I've said before, he's my favorite owner in the NFL. The thing I love the most about him is that he reminds me, he's a, let's put it this way, he's a less vocal Joe Lacob. Joe Lacob is the primary owner of the Golden State Warriors. Like, for those of you who didn't see Bob Myers, who obviously stepped down as a GM the other day, for those of you who didn't see it, he did the press conference with the owner, Joe Lacob. And there was a question asked by somebody, one of the reporters, talking about, hey, does this new CBA, which I've talked about in this show, really hurts the Golden State Warriors and his anti-super team, which I hate. Not just for the Warriors, but I think super teams are great for the NBA. Historically, they've been amazing for ratings. So I don't know why Silver's trying to combat that. Point is, they asked Joe Lacob about, like, hey, this CBA kind of hurts you guys. And Joe Lacob said, we will do whatever it takes to win. He said, I don't care what we have to do. We will do whatever it takes to win. I love that mentality by owners. That's why it drives me crazy when you got, like, your Dan Snyder's of the world, he doesn't care about Washington. And that's why rejoice, Commanders fans. He obviously sold the team. But That's what I love about Stan Kroenke. He's not as vocal as Joe Lacob, but he abides by that same principle. He abides by that same philosophy that, man, I'm going to do whatever I can to be successful. Now, he's not the GM, but he puts people in positions, smart people in these positions to make these decisions, and he deserves all the credit in the world for that. But great point, Patrick. And last thing, too, finals fact before we get out of here for the show. I saw this, that if you haven't seen this stat on SportsCenter, it's unbelievable, that we have not had a Western Conference team win the NBA championship. We have not had a Western Conference team win the NBA championship outside of the states of California and Texas since the 1979 Seattle Supersonics, who obviously are now the Oklahoma City Thunder now. I saw that. I was like, wow. Which obviously you've had a lot of dynasties from between California and Texas, between a bunch of teams. Obviously, the Lakers had 2 dynasties. The Warriors had a dynasty. Spurs had a dynasty. Who am I missing? Houston won back-to-back championships. Dallas won a championship in 2011. Obviously, Sacramento, they haven't done anything. Although they're on the come up, there's no question about it. And the Clippers are, well, no, they're the Clippers. They're never a threat to do anything. All right, that is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody for stopping by. Big shout out to John Rivera of the Pham Perspective Podcast. If you haven't watched his show, please go check it out anywhere you get your podcast and on YouTube, the Pham Perspective Podcast. Big shout out to him. Fantastic guy. Great sports analysis as always from him. And I know he was very pleased, understandably so, with some pro Jets commentary on the show for a change. But I don't know. There's something about Aaron. I don't know what it is. It's some positive, some positive vibes surrounding him. You know what I'm saying? Very different than what we're used to seeing. So I don't know. I like that. I like positive quarterbacks. I like positive athletes. So that's what I got. But like I said, we'll be back tomorrow at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific time on Twitter, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network's YouTube channel. Be sure to like, share, comment, and take 2 seconds out of your day. Hit that big red subscribe button. It helps the channel grow exponentially. And be sure to go subscribe to the Grid Network. That is GRYD, the Grid Podcast Network, here on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, be it Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, any and everywhere you get and listen to your favorite podcast. Definitely check that out on the Grid. So I got Miami tonight, 110-106. I may or may not, depending on how the game goes, if it's like a controversial ending or if it's a close, which I think it will be. I might planning to potentially go on IG Live tonight, like right after the game's over. So definitely stay tuned for that. I'm on IG at Carving It Up Podcast. Please be sure to follow me over there. And like I said, I think we're in for a good one. I'll see y'all tomorrow, 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific time, Twitter, Carving It Up YouTube channel, and Grid Network YouTube channel. Have a great evening, everybody. Please continue to stay safe. Please be sure to take care of your physical as well as your mental health. And please be sure to contact your local state representatives and senators to demand change for gun violence in America. Have a great evening, everybody. Heat win 110-106. You heard it here first. God bless you all. Peace out. Heat in 6. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. Be sure to click that big red subscribe button and go check out the other clips and full shows of Carving It Up Live. Have a blessed day.